people united will never be defeated. The 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 people united will never be defeated.
It's getting bigger, it's growing, until we get some common sense down in the south to recognize we can't change our lives up here without us being involved in the decision-making process.
I will tell you, Councillor Marousas is here as well. We stand with you 100%. We've got your back. We're doing everything we can to bring this message to the province. And we need you to continually to speak out. The show of signs are wonderful. That really shows the support here in our community.
It ain't gonna end anytime soon, I can tell you that.
This is our way of life. We're in charge of our way of life, and we'll make the decisions on our way of life. Nobody else will do that for us. Our message is simple. There are two key points that we're bringing across down the ride. I wanted to identify to everybody that the ride was just fabulous. It was fantastic. Each stop had people in it from around the north, both employees and people who were concerned, who were raucous, who were telling us their issues around the ONTC, and definitely identifying that they're not accepting this divestiture in no way, shape, or form either. So that inspiration is good for mayors like us as well, because this is a hard job for us to do. We have so many other issues that we're managing and working with as mayors and trying to keep under control. This has become a priority. It's unprecedented for mayors of this magnitude to come en masse and do what we're doing. It's unprecedented for mayors to be challenging the provincial government in the way that we are. And you know, when we were talking about this issue right up front, it became pretty clear that there was no other way to deal with this. This is not a time for us to worry about bridges at this point. We have to worry about our necks being in a guillotine and our whole way of life here being at threat. This divestiture is the straw that broke the camel's back. And we're not prepared to take our foot off the gas at this point. This is something that we need to push forward. And we need to push forward because it's bad for Northern Ontario. It's not good to privatize the ONTC. In Northern Ontario, 90% of the provincial landmass exists north of Highway 17 with only 7% of the population. It's our way of life. It's a rural way of life. It requires public support. There is no way private sector industry can run on a bottom line basis in this environment. There's no way for that to happen. When we privatize things like the ONTC, that's a signal from the government. This is clear policy that they're not supporting the magnitude and the value of rail in Northern Ontario. They're going to give it to the private sector, which will do what they do, and that's not a bad thing. Private sector will minimize, they'll be cost efficient, they'll maintain the rail bed, and at the same time, we will lose the magnitude of this rail. It's not a time for the province to be backing away and divesting from something as critical as rail in Northern Ontario. It's a time for the province to be involved, to recognize that we need to enhance the rail. They need to find the innovations and the creativity and help people learn how to use the rail and recognize that rail from an environmental standpoint and from an economic standpoint is a huge part of the future in Northern Ontario. We cannot let our rail continue to be divested and eroded away where we have nothing but the highway to rely on. And the fact of the matter is, we invest billions of dollars in road. We're not investing hardly any money into rail. It doesn't make any sense to me or the mayors in this group that the province would go down this road having purported to be the great environmentalists when you're looking at having rail represent 8 times more efficiency than what trucks do on the road. For every ton of product that's transported on the highway or transported all together, for every ton, that same amount of oil that it takes to transport that ton, you can transport 8 times farther on rail. So what are we doing here in the north? We have no plan. We have no involvement in Northern Ontario and the leaders. We have no direction on where we're going with a key integral part of our society, which is the rail. And we seem to be backing away from our environmental conscience. We're increasing the carbon footprint at the same time. It doesn't make any rational sense. The mayors in this region, from Cochrane right down to North Bay and in between, recognize we need that rail. We can't be participating in intermodal transportation strategies on one side of the province while we're talking about divesting rail on the other side of the province. The ONTC is a big part of who we are. It's a big part of what we are right now in terms of how we exist. And we have a right as a people, not just to exist and not just to minimize the impact, but to grow like every other Northern Ontarian and every other Ontarian. We've become insignificant Ontarians, unfortunately. And it's up to us to change that direction. And it starts here with the ONTC, and it starts here with the employees of the ONTC, the 1,000 families that are associated to the ONTC, and if you take a decent multiplier of 2.5, the 2,500 other families that rely on the ONTC as well too. This is a big issue. I have to tell you that I'm excited to be part of this process. I'm excited to be here supporting the ONTC, and I'm excited to be here as a leader in Northern Ontario who believes in our people, believes in our way of life, and believes that we're entitled to determine who we want to be without people thousands of kilometers away with nothing and no skin on the line making those decisions. Stand behind us, folks. Thank you very much.
So we are here 100% and we'll do whatever we can to support, because we're all fighting the same issue here. As Peter said, this is for environmental reasons, it's for economic reasons, so that we don't all become ghost towns in Northern Ontario. We want to be able to thrive and do really well as vibrant communities that are connected together.
Thanks very much, Linda, and welcome from Sault Ste. Marie to our beautiful city here in North Bay. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 other speakers that I want to introduce. I can tell you our council is 100% behind you. They're not demoralized, they're motivated, and you're going to hear from Councillor Marousas. He's going to bring the voice of council forward for you to hear the passion that we have to protect the jobs in Northern Ontario. George.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here for 2 reasons. First of all, to assure you that the North Bay Council and Mayor were 100% behind you all the way and we're not quitting. The second reason is I'm here to remind Dalton McGuinty that I was a witness to that signature when he promised not to divest the ONTC in that by-election when, of course, guess who my opponent was the current mayor. So I'm here to remind McGuinty, and I think we need to continue to remind the Premier. I don't think that the Premier can sort of put this off to Bartolucci. He's the boss, and we have to hold his feet to the fire. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just the mayors, it's just not the unions fighting this, but it's business fighting it as well. So I want to introduce the president of the North Bay and District Chamber of Commerce. I'm getting tired. I want to introduce John, who's been a great champion for you as well. John Strang.
Thank you very much. The Chamber stands united with the ONTC. We believe that the investment that is being made in Southern Ontario has to be made in Northern Ontario when it comes to transportation and rail services. We have full backing of our membership, 900 plus members, 15,000 employees. We sent a resolution forward last month's meeting demanding to meet with the Minister of Northern Development and Mines, Mr. Rick Bartolucci. He had agreed to a meeting on Friday, last Friday. The Wednesday prior, a day and a half prior, he canceled on us. We have now said that reschedule the meeting all you like. but we want the meeting in North Bay. We're a group of volunteers. We've rearranged work schedules, rented vans to go down to Sudbury, and then to have it canceled a day and a half out. Just showed the arrogance of the government. We are demanding, we are staying steadfast in the fact that we want a meeting in North Bay with Rick. We want to know what the plan is, and anything less than stopping the divestiture is unacceptable to us. We want to also get our message out to our Premier, who has at this point been silent and we believe very arrogant as well. On Friday, this coming Friday, the Chamber will address the Premier in the Ottawa Sun. In his home riding, we will address his constituents. We are taking out a full-page ad laying out the importance of the ONTC and what it means to our way of life in Northern Ontario, and we will reach out that way. So you have our full support. We are behind you 100%, and we will not give up the fight. We will not give up the fight. So keep fighting, and we are here. Thank you.
As your mayor, I will not give up this fight. Council will not give up this fight. You heard the mayor from Cochrane is not going to give up this fight. You heard the passion in his voice. You heard the passion in George's voice. You heard the passion in John's voice. We are here. We are here for you. We have your back, and we are not going to give up, but we need to hear you as well. Do not give up. We're here. Peter.
Finally, folks, let me wrap up with a message to the Premier. I'll make it as polite and constructive as possible because we still are statesmen at the end of the day. Premier, divestiture of the ONTC is wrong. Premier, privatizing the ONTC is bad for Northern Ontario. Premier, coming to the Nipissing riding a decade ago during an election and promising and guaranteeing not to divest the ONTC and going ahead and divesting the ONTC and rubbing our faces in the sand at the same time is wrong. I urge the Premier, I urge the government to reach out, change their approach, and recognize if you don't look around and see the seeds of change right now, then you're going to see the seeds of change by force. Thank you very much, people. Stand behind